When your daughter's learning how to drive, you say,
Híjole, here we go.
but what you should say is,
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there
to help you choose the coverage you need. State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hi, this is Paul Sir from The Basketball Show, and thank you for listening to this special podcast edition. We're going to be talking about the Olympics and Canada's involvement, the Americans, and the concerns that they have on the basketball side for the men. And we're also going to touch on the new TNT Amazon conflict as it relates to the upcoming NBA broadcasting rights and much, much more. Thanks so much for spending time, and I hope you enjoy this podcast edition of The Basketball Show. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to The Basketball Show. I'll tell you what, Ryan Reed, great to have you back again this week, but we've had such an exciting time on The Basketball Show with going through all the different levels and machinations of basketball, NCAA, youth sports, NBA, men, women, WNBA, just so many things happening. But now into that very unique chapter and that exciting time in this special thing we call the Olympics, with basketball literally kicking off as we're talking right now. Welcome, Ryan Reed, to the program. We're going to have a lot of fun today.
Yeah, Olympics underway here. We have plenty of stuff to talk about, Paul. Let's get to it.
So you can listen online at sports1440.ca, of course, and you can always listen to our podcast, which we put out every week on the Stingray Podcast Network or however you listen to your podcasts. Our text line is 833-401-1440. We're going to have a lot for you to text in about today, and we welcome your text, and we'll try to get to as many as we possibly can. Ryan, why don't you share our poll question for today?
Related to the Olympics, as we were just talking about there, the question is, which of these Canadian Olympic basketball teams is most likely to medal in the Paris 2024 Olympic Games? The men's basketball team, the women's basketball team, or the women's 3x3 team? There's also a fourth option saying all of them will medal, but I guess try to specify a little bit. So far, it's just kind of a split between men's basketball and women's 3x3. And so, yeah, go over on Twitter, basketball_show, and cast your vote there, and we'll be keeping you posted throughout the show today.
And, of course, we're talking about the Canadian teams. This is the first time Canada has ever had three teams in. It's only the second time, really, when you could have that kind of situation evolve, because it's the second Olympics that 3x3 is a medal sport. And, of course, our Canadian women, led by Edmonton's Michelle and Catherine Plouffe, are one of the heavy favorites to medal in the Olympics this year. So Canada is positioned, and there's a lot of people not just interested, but also wringing their hands as they see this as a tremendous opportunity for Canada to get some hardware this year at the end of it all. Our guest today, we have Miranda I.M., and Miranda was an outstanding player from the Toronto area. Miranda played her college ball at Pepperdine on the West Coast and then had an outstanding pro career overseas that she will talk about. But where we know Miranda the best is her time in Edmonton. She was part of the Canada basketball women's national team for a long, long time. Miranda played in 3 Olympics. And when the Canadian women's basketball team made Edmonton their home, and more specifically, the Saville Center in Edmonton their home, way back in 2013, Miranda was an instrumental part of that team as they became relevant internationally by qualifying and surprising everyone in the 2012 Olympics. Ryan, maybe you can share some of the early results in the Olympic basketball tournament.
Yeah, Germany was able to beat Japan. They won by 20 points there. Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner, and co. really just kind of cleaning up. Canada's playing today as well. We've had some, just have to pull it up here. Paul, give me 1 second.
Oh, that's okay. Australia also beat Spain 92-80, and that's in that group of death that Canada's a part of. So Australia making the early statement. Spanish also have, they have a
Brazil's actually beating France right now too.
France, I don't think France is that good.
But Brazil, it's like Bruno Caboclo and Cristiano Felicio and Raul Neto.
Welcome to FIBA basketball.
I guess so, eh?
40 minutes, not 48. You can play in the paint. You don't have to park outside with the NBA defensive 3-second rule.
Or just grab the ball off the rim, too.
You can knock the ball off the rim when it's going in. FIBA is such a cool and different game. But that's what happens in situations like this. But the French men have not looked good in any of the pre-tournament games. So I know there's high expectations. Heck, I mean, it's in Paris. Of course there's high expectations. But even in spite of the presence of Gobert and Wembanyama, their backcourt is not that great.
Evan Fournier, Frank Ntilikina.
Like, they're good.
It's NBA level guys, but again, as you said, it's just, I don't know. We'll see.
And NBA level in the Olympics is important, but it's not all important. It's really how you blend together as a team with the talent that you have. And how do you maximize a player like Wembanyama? Like, I think you can make the comparison with in France with having Gobert at the 5 and putting Wemby at the 4, like the Timberwolves did with Karl Anthony Towns. And, of course, the Wolves had a very successful season with a lot of doubters thinking that it was going to be next to impossible to have two bigs like that be successful. So far, France hasn't figured it out. And I think the Parisians and the French are going to be very upset if the French men aren't successful this year. So Canada plays Greece at 1 p.m. today. So this is going to be interesting. Greece had a hard time qualifying. I think you'd have to say, I don't want to say heavy favorites. Canada definitely is the favorite going into this game. You're playing against, of course, a team led by the great Giannis Antetokounmpo.
All the Antetokounmpos.
Well, there's 17 of them on the roster. No, there's 3, right?
4, I thought.
Is it 4?
No, it's 3. Yeah.
It's 3. Okay. Now
and Georgios Papagiannis, Kings legend there.
Kings legend.
By the
yeah.
Kings.
No, he's a player.
He's like 7'2".
Yeah, and again in FIBA, 7'2" matters. In the NBA, not so much anymore. But 7'2" matters. 7'2" big, strong, physical players really matter in FIBA. Where in the NBA, they've kind of been that traditional old big, little bit slower, not that explosive, can't shoot the 3. Though that kind of player isn't as coveted as it once was.
But they're matching up. Like Papagiannis is a big guy, and he's matching up with the Canadian bigs. They're not the biggest guys in the world, so maybe a sleeper matchup there.
Totally agree. I mean, I completely agree in that situation because we've said all along, if the Canadians are vulnerable, and this is not a put down to the Canadian bigs other than just the reality, in the FIBA world, these are not your prototypical big players that you're looking for in FIBA. You're looking for big, brawny, physical players. So somebody like that with the Greece team is going to be interesting. The thing with FIBA is you just don't know what you don't know. Like, Canada's look good in their preseason matchups, at times very good. They have one of the elite players in, if not the elite player, honestly, with all deference to the Americans. I think going into this, if I had to pick who do you think the best individual player in the Olympics is right now, I would go with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he's the best player.
Not Jokic, not.
Okay. Yes, but
fair enough.
I think you're 100% right. I can be definitely challenged on that. Let's just say they're 1-2, depending on how you want to rank them.
Serbia, USA tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. is a big one. Hey.
Oh my gosh, can't wait for that. Can't wait for that. We're going to talk more about the Americans later as well because Steve Kerr had some interesting comments in his last 2 press conferences. I don't think the Americans are going into this with the confidence that they thought they would be going into this with the talent pool that on paper looks so impressive, but hasn't been that impressive in the pre-tournament games.
Well, I feel like they always start slow in the games, but by the end, I feel like it's been convincing wins.
100%. But it should be.
They should be. But again, they will be tested tomorrow with Serbia, and I think they crushed Serbia in the preliminary rounds, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I always question those results, Ryan, because it's Serbia. They're as dumb as a fox. I doubt seriously they quote unquote threw the game, but just like with the Canadians playing against the Americans in Las Vegas, you really didn't see what each team had that game. in particular. And in fact, I would say Canada under Fernandez was actually more coy than the Americans were, because they played their best players even less than the Americans played, because they had LeBron and Tatum and everybody in at the end. They wanted to make sure they beat Canada.
Canada was rotating everybody in, like even guys like Ejim, like non-NBA guys were just sliding in, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And against LeBron, it's like, well,
yeah.
I don't know if we have a chance.
Well, you probably don't in that kind of situation, as you indicate, Ryan. But I think, I really think that the Canadians, we don't know how good anybody is at this point. It's just like the NBA preseason. How many times have you seen teams that through the regular season end up having really weak records look pretty darn good in the preseason? That's what we've been going through right now. These are tune-ups. They're preparation. The only team that I think probably takes what's the right way to put this? I think that was a bit of an unsettling pre-Olympic bunch of exhibition games were the Americans, because I think it came through loud and clear that the American players, not the coaches, the players thought, this is going to be easy. We're the dream team. People are telling us we're the dream team. Bama Abadeo talking about, I can't believe this talent that we've got here. Like, they were really starstruck with themselves, I felt. And I think that it's going to be a very interesting rollout. Let's jump to the Canadian women, and we'll be talking, and I can't recommend strongly enough. Listen to the interview I had with Miranda Ayam. She is so well-spoken and thoughtful in her perspective, not just on the current Canadian women's Olympic team, but on the journey that the women in Canada have gone on to get to this particular point in time. They play Monday against France, I believe 9:15
a.m.
9:15 a.m. against the home team again. And then our women's 3x3 team starts on Tuesday. And now, if you could look that up, I think it's 8 a.m. on Tuesday against Australia, but you could verify.
10 a.m. Against Australia Tuesday.
And Australia for the women's 3x3 is a real interesting test out of the gate. In a lot of respects, I'm glad that the Canadians are playing Australia right away, because Canada has had like 3 weeks off. It'll be almost 4 weeks off since the 3x3 event we had here in Edmonton. And with the injuries that Michelle and Casey Bosch, that is, out of Lethbridge, have had to continue to overcome, that 3.5 week period of training and treatment has really been valuable. Australia beat them twice in a qualifying tournament. So the Australians are a very good 3x3 team, and they were designed to beat Canada. They were designed to match up with Canada specifically, and they've been working on this for the past 3 years.
Do you want to just remind people maybe how, because it looks like I'm just looking at the pool here, is it the top X, how many qualify for the next round in the 3x3 Olympics? Are you?
You know, I don't have the chart in front of me.
Okay. There's 8 teams, and I'm guessing maybe 4 of them qualify for the next round.
I believe that's
I believe
that's
what. 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3.
It might be, or by over the break we'll look into that, because I did not look at the matchups on the backside. I've just been paying attention to the front side, but we'll find out. Could be 6. Because the 1 and 2 could have 2 buys,
and then 3, 6, 4, 5.
Yeah, that could be, and I'm assuming that the 8 teams in 3x3 is going to change for the next Olympics, because I think
more.
I think they need more. 12 minimum, 16 ideal. I don't know if we're ready for 16 yet, like 16
I guess
quality.
you kind of see how this sticks maybe like this time around. If it does really well, they're like, okay, that's double the field, and that's no worries for next time.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it's going to be interesting.
And 4 years is a long time for a sport too, eh? Like,
well, yeah.
For growth.
Oh, and growth. And I'll tell you what, when you look at growth over the next 4 years, Ryan, what's exciting is that 2028 is in Los Angeles. So if people don't think the United States isn't going to get behind 3x3 big time over the next 4 years, the growth in North America is poised to happen. We're going to talk a little bit about an initiative in women's basketball that's taking place right now. that's very revolutionary for 3x3. There's so much more that we're going to talk about today, but this has been a lot of fun getting off to this start. Today with my good friend Ryan Reed. Brian Swain couldn't join us in the studio today. As always, we always wish Brian was here, but Brian will be back next week. So we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about the CEBL and, of course, our beloved hometown Edmonton Stingers right here on Sports 1440 and the Basketball Show. The great voice of Cyndi Lauper, another one of the 80s hits we're featuring today. Girls just want to have fun. Ryan, why don't you give us a poll update?
In honor of the Olympics here, we're talking about which team from Canada is most likely to medal at the 2024 Paris Olympics. So far, the results have been a little bit controversial. We have very close results here. So leading the pack right now, women's 3x3, 35.3% of the people believe they're the most likely Canadian team to medal in the basketball field. 26.5% believe men's basketball will, and 8.8% of women's basketball. And almost a third of people believe all of them will medal. So maybe a little bit of a hometown bias there.
That's great.
It's a quick update. Speaking of men's basketball, ever since we mentioned that Brazil and France is close, France is kind of taken over a little bit. So that's why I guess you don't jinx it on radio. But
yeah, it's all thanks to us that France has turned this around, Ryan. We brought them back. The French team actually, when you watch them, and I think sometimes I get a little too definite, black and white in some of my opinions, especially when you take preseason action into account. France has a lot of talent. They're definitely a team to be reckoned with, but you can also see the talent level of Brazil. Brazil's not highly rated. They're very inexperienced, but they're big, they're physical, and they're keeping it close. So there is no cakewalk anywhere in this Olympic tournament for any of the categories of basketball. So that's what I find intriguing about the poll that we're getting. And good on everyone who's voting for all three medaling, because you know what? All three have the talent to medal. The question is, who's going to play in prime time well enough to get into the medal rounds and actually succeed in reaching that? And we certainly hope it is all three teams. I'm going to do our community superstar segment right now. I do this every week, where we celebrate the contributions of some of the dedicated, selfless, and hardworking organizations and individuals in our community who offer basketball programs and opportunities to kids, adults, everyone who has a desire to play, has a chance to play in our community. And that's thanks to all of these superstars that I consider superstars. I'll start with the Wheelchair Sports Alberta. No one is more deserving of praise than Wheelchair Sports Alberta. They run the provincial wheelchair basketball team. They go to the Canada Winter Games every 4 years. They're the men's, we're not including them in the basketball conversation here, but we have wheelchair representation in the Olympics as well. Canada will be in the Olympics with wheelchair basketball. And I think, Ryan, we need to look up their schedule in our next break and make sure we share that with everybody. We had the wheelchair folks out for our 3x3 tournament 3 weeks ago already. They put on an outstanding show. What a great group of athletes and a great group of people in their community. The Edmonton Basketball Officials Association, they're one of the premier basketball officiating groups in Canada and also one of the largest. They have great leadership, great training, great recruiting programs. Edmonton Basketball Officials Association are a real key part of basketball in our city. Africa Center, I have had the pleasure of working with the folks over at the Africa Center for the past several years, and they do so much for not just their community, but they serve as a community hub, offering culturally aware programs and services to diverse families, aiming to enhance participation in economic, social, cultural, and educational aspects of society while fostering holistic development and wellness. The folks at the Africa Center are just unbelievable, and we're excited about the growth and development of 3x3, but basketball in general, through the Africa Center and a lot of the teams and programs that they run. Reed Clark and his Fresh Nets Foundation, grassroots organization, with one simple but lofty goal to ensure every outdoor basketball hoop has a fresh net. Now, Reed and the Fresh Net Foundation has partnered along with Sport Edmonton, City of Edmonton, Explore Edmonton, and Hoop City 3x3. And we are working together to make sure that over 400 rims will have new nets and over 100 new backboards and rims all across the city. And all of this is going to be done by the fall. This is just a fantastic initiative. It's a legacy outcome of Hoop City 3x3, and Fresh Nets Foundation is a major partner in what we're trying to accomplish. And then, of course, the Edmonton Basketball Association is the original adult recreational basketball league in our city. They have competitive and recreational basketball for men and women. It's year-round. Games are played at the Saville Community Sports Center. They really promote the love of the game, sport for life mentalities. And whether you're a recreational player or a former pro or university player, there's something for you with the EBA. And I also want to talk up my old organization, the Alberta Basketball Association. I had the privilege of being their executive director for nearly 16 years. August 2nd at the EYBA Center, the Edmonton Youth Basketball Association Center, from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., there is a watch party to watch our 3x3 women play, watch Canada play. So you go over to the EYBA Center. You're going to see the 3x3 and men's game on the big screen over there. They'll have a free breakfast. There's no charge, a live DJ, face painting for the kids, balloon animals, mini games, and prizes. But you need to RSVP to attend. So go to abbasketball.ca. Again, abbasketball.ca. And make sure you register and then head over to the EYBA Center August 2nd, 8:30 to 3:30 p.m. to support our Canadian teams in the Olympics. So we've got the poll. People are hopeful and optimistic about our Canadian teams doing really well. We're going to talk more Olympics coming up, but I'm going to jump over to the WNBA now and talk about women's basketball because some intriguing outcomes came out of the All-Star weekend, I think, Ryan, with the players not selected to represent Team USA in the Olympics, defeating them in an All-Star game. And I think what that did, among many things, and I'm really interested in your opinion on this, is it finally put enough, well, I shouldn't say finally. People have hated the NBA All-Star Game for a long time, and I certainly am in that crowd. I never watch the All-Star Game anymore. It just is unwatchable basketball. A bunch of dudes showing off. It's sloppy. There's a lot of great dunks, but when the score's 190 to 188, it really is just more agitating than it is entertaining. And the women's game now, on the other hand, I mean, they got after it. Both teams played to win. And you know what? The women's Olympic team from the U.S. is the heavy favorites. It would be a major shock to not have the women's Olympic team from the U.S. on the podium for the gold medal, certainly. But that just shows the depth of talent in the WNBA now.
And yeah, that WNBA team beating the USA Basketball 117-109, for those who do not know, the Stars' Caitlin Clark actually did not play super well in that game, only recording 4 points. Did have 10 assists, but Angel Reese outplayed her that game in 8 less minutes. Had 12 points and 11 rebounds.
If you count points and stats as outplaying, yes.
Fair enough.
But whether or not she...
Like from like a glance, it looks like.
On paper, absolutely. And in no way am I saying that because I want to put any kind of doubt in how well Angel Reese played. But look up the stats on that, Ryan. Let's talk about who the real superstars were for the All-Stars playing against the U.S. team. You look at the U.S. team selection, a lot of it is along the lines of what the U.S. men's team is, in that they're giving older players who have paid their dues and been instrumental in building the WNBA spots on the team, but spots that should be questioned in terms of who actually the best players are, because there were at least 3 players on the All-Star team that should be on the Olympic team based on how they're playing in the league this year, not just in the game.
Yeah, Ogunbowale had 34 points in that game, 34, 6, and 3 in 31 minutes, leading the team in minutes, leading the team in points, second on the team in assists. Really was one of the better players in that game. For the Olympic team, Brianna Stewart had 31 and 10. Aja Wilson had 22 and 6. Those are the standout players for both teams there, but you can kind of see where there's a little bit of contention there of who should be on the team and who's outplaying who, that kind of thing.
Well, and politics, and the young lady from Dallas with 31, she talked about politics. She pulled her name from consideration very early in the tryout phase for the women's national team because she was stating that the politics are just too much and she just didn't want to be bothered. She ended up with 21 points in the third quarter and really led the All-Star team to that resounding defeat, solid defeat of the Olympic team. But politics, hey, people talk about it like it's a bad thing or the first time that there ever has been politics in team selection in sport. That's anything. Nothing could be further from the truth, because when you have arbitrary selections that's going to be made for a variety of reasons, and every woman on the WNBA Olympic team is a great, great player, and many have, like Tarusi, have contributed to the development and growth of the game. So you look at it and you go, yeah, I understand that. I understand it. But it is at the expense of great players not being on the Olympic team as well. You could also make the same statement about the men's Olympic team from the U.S. When you have that much talent, but you also want to reward and acknowledge the contribution of players like a LeBron James, like a Steph Curry, who not only have contributed so much, but are still contributing even when they're not at the peak of their performance. I think it's really interesting, but I hope, and I'm really curious, Ryan, do you think there's any chance the NBA might try to take something from the WNBA All-Star game and make it a more competitive game?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. I think they're trying. It's not like Adam Silver's like, I don't really care. I don't want it to be competitive. They've tried multiple things. Like they have that new system where instead of a timed game, it's a points game, like kind of like a pickup vibe. And I feel like it does get a little more competitive down the stretch, but still it hasn't really worked. I don't know if you can put stuff into motion that makes it more competitive. The players just have to be competitive. And maybe that's just the commentary about the WNBA. The state of WNBA, they're still trying very hard to in the All-Star game, and that's just a sign of like the rise of the WNBA. But I think it's on the players, especially. And it's honestly, I don't even really blame the players for not trying. Like, don't hurt yourself and cost yourself millions. But I don't know if Adam Silver can do much in the NBA to make the game more competitive when I think the onus is on the players.
You make very good points. The low-hanging fruit is next Olympic cycle, they do exactly what was just done. That's the low-hanging fruit.
But then the All-Stars wouldn't be like,
they wouldn't be
there's
selected.
Like legitimate, like Caitlin Clark, for example, Ogunbowale. Like it'd be good players from the WNBA All-Star team, quote unquote, because it wouldn't be the All-Star team because everyone's gone in the Olympics. But are you saying like Giannis and Jokic would be on the NBA team, or they're also on the Olympic teams, right? But
they're on Olympic teams, but you would put the Team USA against the rest of the NBA.
Rest of the NBA. Okay. Oh, that's a great idea then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking like I don't know if they'd want to do it though because they're on Olympic training. Like Jokic is. What if he was like in Serbia?
Well, yeah, but the All-Star game happens during the midseason.
I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's a good idea. I still don't know if they would try.
I don't know.
I think the onus is on the players. Like you can do whatever flip-flop team you want. I just don't know if it's exactly going to result in the result that people want.
And the other thing is for All-Star games, I know baseball has tried that whoever wins the All-Star game, National League, American League, they get an advantage in the World Series. They get to host, to be the home team for the World Series and have the
I think that works pretty well too.
That's a pretty cool idea. I think anything they could do would be great. I'll be curious to see if next year they go back to that in-season tournament. Again, trying to create more.
I think it'll be back.
It'll be back, probably. Yeah, again, I question it because I thought that was just regular season games. But, hey, the NBA, if they're anything, they're superb at finding ways to keep it interesting and keep it fresh. They really are, in my opinion, the best league in the world at them marketing themselves. Even though football's the juggernaut, NBA, in terms of its niche globally, have done a fantastic job. So we're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to have Miranda Ayem, longtime three-time Olympian with the women's national team for Canada, now retired, but she's going to share her perspectives on the Olympics coming up, but also the Olympics past. And by the way, Brazil is behind 69-58 to France as France continues to assert itself with about 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. We're so glad you're with us this morning on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. We'll be right back after these messages. The rich, powerful voice of Annie Lennox and the Eurythmics. Another one of the great 80s songs, Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics. Here on the Basketball Show, Sports 1440, Paul Sir along with Ryan Reed on this Olympic Saturday morning. The games are off and running. Opening ceremonies yesterday. Basketball is being played. And at 1 o'clock today, you can watch your Canadian men as they tip off against Greece for the first Canadian basketball team to take the court. And that will be a great test as they go up against two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, his brothers, and the Greek team. Greece has a tremendous basketball culture, reputation. Canada's the favorite, though, Reed. They're expected to beat the Greeks, and I think they will. And so very, very exciting to think at 1 o'clock we're going to be able to watch our national team where the money counts now. It's no longer this exhibition stuff. It's the real deal, and you got to leave it on the court. So quick update on the poll, if you don't mind, Ryan, and see if our numbers have stayed around the same in terms of who's voting for whom.
It's still similar to what it was. Women's 3x3 leading the pack at 39.2% of the vote, and tied for second at 27.5%. All of them will medal, and men's basketball and women's basketball still 5.9%. Not a lot of belief in just the women's 5v5 basketball team.
Well, I think they've been overshadowed by the men, certainly, and even in our community, the 3x3 team, because of the Edmonton roots with Michelle and Catherine, and our all Alberta national team representing Canada over in the Olympics. I wanted to make a couple of other additions to what we were talking about before about the para-athletes that are going to be playing wheelchair basketball that are from Alberta. There's Reed DeEath, and I hope I pronounced his name correctly, from Sherwood Park, and Chad Jasmine from Medicine Hat. They'll be playing for the men's Olympic team representing Canada, and we've had Chad on the program. Very well-spoken, very enthusiastic, passionate young man. And then we also have Erin Young from St. Albert. She'll be on the women's wheelchair basketball team as well. And those games kick off right at the end of August in Paris as well. So that they are 3 of 8 Albertans participating in the Olympics. I mentioned Matt Callio, the official from Edmonton, who just was part of the team that officiated the France-Brazil game. And then Yvonne Edgem out of Calgary is also representing Canada, playing for the women's national team. And then, of course, 3 native Albertans in Casey Bosch from Lethbridge, along with Michelle and Catherine Plouffe from Edmonton, representing Canada in the Olympics in basketball. So rich representation of basketball by our province. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Olympics right now, but rather than talk about Team Canada for the moment, and I'm sure we'll drift into that, Ryan, but I want to talk about some comments by USA national team Olympic coach Steve Kerr, of course from the Golden State Warriors, with his all-star coaching staff. In his last 2 press conferences, Steve has been beating the drum that the American players better take this more seriously than they have in their exhibition game. And one of the things that stood out to me was not so much talking about the technical aspects of the FIBA game, which are very different in some respects from the NBA game, Ryan, but more talking about their effort.
Yeah.
He really got on the players' case and called them out publicly that they are not taking this seriously and they are getting outworked.
I'll read the expert here from Brian Windhorst at ESPN. This is his article. He wrote, After a sobering film session Thursday that showed clips of some lackadaisical play, Kerr put Team USA through its most aggressive practice since coming overseas, hoping to ignite more spirit ahead of its Olympic opener Sunday against Serbia. And this is what Kerr said. Quote, "That's what today's about. It's the reminder. It's time we're here. So it's got to be 40 minutes of force and attention and focus, and we can't let teams outplay us effort and energy-wise like we did the other night against Germany, like we did against South Sudan," end quote.
Well, in South Sudan, I mean, the Americans did everything but lose that game. When you're relying on a 39-year-old LeBron James, almost 40-year-old, to carry you on your back with 23 points in the game-winning layup. And South Sudan had three good chances to beat the Americans with shots at the other end of the court as well. Like the Americans like I said, they really did not deserve, if there is such a thing, in winning a game. They did not deserve to win that. But yeah, their effort has been lackadaisical. They have been unimpressive to this point. We were talking before the show started, and you make a great point. Generally, the Americans have the least amount of practice time. They have the most amount of talent, and they get better as the games go on through the Olympics. But I think what Steve Kerr is saying, don't count on that. There have been some conversations about the comparison between this team and its talent and the dream team of 1992. Number one, that was a completely different era, Ryan. You wouldn't know because were you even born then?
Oh, no. I was born a decade after that.
Yeah, you were 10 years later. My God, I'm forgetting you're 12. So I think we've got, you've got such a different era of basketball. I was reading where one of the American players was saying there's 64 other NBA players in the Olympics this year. That's true. They're playing against other NBA talent. The world has caught up to the Americans in terms of their fundamentals and skills, and I would go so far as to say there are a lot of players that aren't American that are the most skilled players in the game. When you talk about a Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, offensively, certainly Gilgeous-Alexander, although primarily a product of the American system, still a foreign and international player along with Antetokounmpo that will be playing against Canada in Game 1 today at 1 o'clock. But this is far from a certainty. The dream team, it was a certainty. You had a team that's unparalleled in terms of talent top to bottom, Hall of Fame, like Mount Rushmore times 3, times 2.5. Christian Laettner's not on Mount Rushmore and never will be. But I think you've just a different era, different level of talent. These players are fantastic. KD has not played until now. But the concern is, are you going to get outworked? Because when they play Serbia tomorrow in the morning, you got to watch that game. Jokic is going to come game face time. And Jokic has the ability to dominate the American team. I'm not saying the Americans can't offset him. They very well may. But Jokic and his Serbian teammates, they're not quite as good as they were 4 years ago, but they're still very good.
There's still some good, like legit guys. Like Bogdan Bogdanovic is good. Nikola Jovic is good.
They're great. They're top to bottom. They're great, and fundamentally, they'll be really, really good. So, I think that adds a lot of drama because I think everybody thought it's just it's going to be the Americans. They're going to get the gold. Who's fighting for silver and bronze? That ain't the case. That is not the case at all. Nobody's afraid of the Americans anymore. And back in 92, I mean, guys were crying because they were so honored to be on the court. Opponents were crying because they got to play against Magic, Bird, Michael. That doesn't happen. There's no tears. There's just this belief that we can beat these guys.
Totally. And I actually kind of want your take on that. For our betting fans out there, just what you would do. The line is 12.5 points for the States against Serbia. Do you think the States will cover that or no?
I don't think so. No, I would be shocked if they covered that.
Okay.
But I think it'll be under 12.5.
So you'll take Serbia plus 12.5, and then the Canada game, it's Canada minus 7.5. Do you think they cover that?
Oh, I think they'll cover that for sure, yeah.
So the picks are Canada minus 7.5 and Serbia plus 12.5.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Serbia is going to be very, very tough to. I think Serbia it'll be interesting to see if Serbia can slow the Americans down. They certainly could not. They got handled by the Americans, and it just looked like a much better, physically a much more talented team that night. Now that it's game time, we'll see. We'll see what they're able to bring. It's going to be interesting to watch. Do they have that ability to flip the switch? And do they have the physical ability? Absolutely. But usually in basketball, it's hard to just flip the switch. You're usually going to play like you practice. So that's why Steve Kerr, I think, has hit not the panic button, but hit the reality button. That, guys, unless you get going, unless you outwork the other team, this is not a given.
For sure. I will say this as well. I'm curious to see how Canada will match Giannis. Who are they going to put on him? You can't.
Oh, really know who? Matt Dillon, Dylan Brooks, the villain.
Dylan Brooks is like my height though. Giannis is like 6'11".
But Giannis plays out front. He's going to play playing point guard, and Dylan's got his mean streak, his publicized mean streak. He'll go at Giannis pretty hard, but it will be interesting to see how Canada defends their bigs, how Canada defends Giannis, and what other weapons and assets do the Greeks have to offset the tremendous depth of talent that Canada has. It's going to be a great game. 1:00. We're literally less than an hour and a half away from Canada's men starting off in the Olympics. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll have our last segment here on the Basketball Show on this Olympics Saturday on Sports 1440. I'll tell you what, the music this week was fantastic. Back in the 80s, I thought, this stuff doesn't compare with the 70s and the 60s, but the 80s holds its own with any decade. That Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, is just such a distinct sound. So welcome back to the Basketball Show, Sports 1440. Ryan, let's talk a little bit about the announcement this past week of TNT losing the NBA going forward. What are the details?
Yeah, so it came out that the NBA had chosen to go with Amazon instead of TNT. TNT's a longtime partner of the NBA through their broadcasts, and TNT actually is not happy about it. They're suing the NBA. TNT claims that they matched the offer to a T, and they legally cannot accept Amazon's deal. Quote, "We have taken legal action to enforce our rights. We strongly believe this is not just our contractual right, but also in the best interest of fans who want to keep watching our industry-leading NBA content with the choice and flexibility we offer them through our widely distributed WBD video-first distribution platforms, including TNT and Max." Yeah, and as I said earlier, TNT has been broadcasting NBA games since the 80s. But on Tuesday, the NBA said that all that will come to an end starting in 2025. The association was adamant TNT did not match the terms of Amazon Prime Video's offer. A short time later, though, TNT said it did indeed submit the same offer. So that a little sticky situation there, Paul.
Well, absolutely. And the stickiness will come out in court. Did TNT actually match the offer? Matching the offer monetarily is one thing. Matching it in terms of how the money is paid is another. And that's what TNT... They're alleging they did meet the contractual requirements, and the NBA obviously wants to make this switch over to Amazon. They've been with TNT a long time. Amazon is a powerful economic force in the world, so they want to make
Just
it.
Took the NFL, I believe, too. The Amazon, a lot of NFL stuff now.
They do. No, the Amazon is they're a tsunami in terms of economics and changing the way sports broadcasting is taking place, but. I think everybody, what I think it all comes down to is one person. People want Charles Barkley back. They want that team back of Ernie, Shaq, Kenny, and Charles. And the thought of losing them, I think, whenever you watch the NBA, I don't know how you feel about this, Ryan, but when you watch those four and their humorous commentary, also filled with basketball insight, intelligence, but done with such a unique patter that you just can't duplicate. Every other NBA panel pales in comparison. I mean, not even in the same league. It's not NBA
even us.
And not well, with one exception, but it's NBA versus junior high when you compare panels. There's just nobody like them at all. So I think that it's interesting. And also then you get into loyalty versus economics. So the fact that TNT feels they have a valid argument to go to court with is intriguing.
Yeah, it'll be a messy legal battle is what they were saying. But yeah, having that halftime show that they do in pregame, postgame, typically people go and they go get their food. They go run an errand quick in between games and stuff like that. But when those guys are on, you're staying on your couch. You're continuing to watch. And that's what drives that NBA game. It drives the NBA sales, and you grow up with those guys.
Well, you skip the chips. I mean, you're sitting there. You
get healthier while you're at it too, I guess.
There you go. They're good for your diet.
Throw that in the contractual agreement.
Yeah. Can Amazon match that? So it'll be interesting to see the way that sports content is changing constantly. Going further and further away from what you call mainstream network television into all of the different streaming options that are now available. At times, I think it's overwhelming for people of just how they consume their news, their sports. It's just a whole different world than 10 years ago, much less 20. But then there's still an old-fashioned value wrapped into the midst of this, and that is loyalty. TNT is a pillar that has helped build the NBA's global popularity. And while Amazon is an economic juggernaut, you still have TNT, which is a force to be reckoned with the best coverage. So it's going to be intriguing to watch how that works out. Olympic Games, we're off and running with the Olympics. We talked about earlier, Australia and Germany were first game winners, as was France. France was down early, came back. France was officiated. The French and Brazil were officiated by Edmontonian Matt Callio. Exciting time for people all across Canada, all around the world, to watch their national teams play. And I think that's what's so unique about the Olympics is we have our sports of passion, excluding American football, but you have your sports of passion that you love watching, but you're watching your nation compete for gold. And there still is, even with all of the negativity that sometimes surrounds the Olympics, controversy, whether it's athlete doping, whether it's, unfortunately, Canadian soccer team using drones. I mean, what a train wreck that is. The cheating that has gone on systemically throughout the decades in the Olympics is just legendary. But still, through it all, going back to its origin, its roots, the national pride that's taken from Olympic medal counts is really, really significant in terms of where people consume over the next 2 weeks. A lot of us are going to be absolutely riveted to our televisions.
It's perfect, honestly. Just the Olympics in general, it's kind of been hated on. No one really wants to host it anymore. But once they're actually on, everybody's waking up a little extra early, depending on where it is. But this year, obviously in Europe, you're waking up a little extra early. You're waking up at 7 or 8, and you're going to be watching it. It's going to be on all day on most TVs all over the world, which is kind of a cool concept, just kind of bring everyone together. The Olympics have done that for a long time, bringing athletes together, the best athletes in the world, and just having that huge multitude of events as well. It's really cool. I've even did the Winter Olympics too. Growing up, you always remember those key memories of, for me at least in sports, we're watching those events.
Well, given our age difference of many, many decades, it's interesting to hear you say that, Ryan, because that's exactly how I feel all the way down the road that I am age-wise. It's the same for me as when I was your age.
I remember 2008. That's my first Olympics I remember.
Okay. Well, mine's a lot earlier. 1968 is the first Olympics I remember. So we're dealing with different eras, but it's the same. It's the same basis. Before we wrap up today, I do want to spend a couple of minutes on the road to the podium for our women's 3x3 team. I want to share with our listeners what some of the differences are in the Olympics as it relates to the 3x3 competition. Because there are only 8 teams in 3x3, 4 men, 8 for men, 8 for women, everybody plays everybody in a pool play. So you really have an 8-team pool. What makes this challenging is you're playing 1 or 2 games per day once this kicks off. Now, here's the concern for Canada. I'll start with the concern, then I'll go to the big, big pluses. The concern is injury and endurance. We've talked many times. We've had Michelle on. Michelle Plouffe had a very serious knee injury in her last game of the World Wrap-Up Tournament for FIBA 3x3 in November of 2023, and has been working extremely hard with the great assistance of the people at Pivotal and other trainers who have been working with Michelle to get her healthy again. Casey Bosch has had some serious leg injuries as well. Paige Croson, Catherine Plouffe have picked the slack up. They both remained healthy, thankfully. But the kind of schedule that they're going to face over the next few days is really, really different. For instance, day one, they play Australia. We talked about this earlier in the program. Australia beat them twice in the same tournament to get to the Olympics as part of the Olympic qualifying process. The Australian team has been working for 3 years to get to this point, and they've built their team to beat Canada. That's an observation by my son Steve, who is heavily involved in the 3x3 world. They really match up probably better than anybody in the world with Canada. And so they'll be tested right away, but that's one game that they play, so one 10-minute game. But then when you get down the road on August 1st, they're going to play Germany at 9:30 a.m. and then at 10 o'clock p.m. These are Paris times. At 10 o'clock p.m. in Paris, they're going to be playing the French team. So they'll have played a game in the morning 12 and a half hours earlier, and now you got to get ready for a game at 10 p.m. at night. Those are really different challenges that everybody has to face. Now, everybody has to face them, like I said. But the quality of 3x3 basketball in the women's division, in the women's arena, has improved dramatically over the last years. Canada is still the favorite to win the gold. I believe they will win the gold. The only asterisk is as long as over that 8-day period, Casey, Michelle, heck, everybody can stay healthy. If they can stay healthy, Canada is capable of beating anybody. But they are also facing the reality that other teams have gotten better. France is very good. Spain is very good. Australia, like I mentioned, very, very good. And there are other extremely accomplished teams out there. So I know we're all pulling for Michelle, Catherine, Paige, and Casey. And it's just that any Olympic journey is such a difficult one. The years it takes to get there, and then once you're there, the schedule that you have to play just makes it so interesting. And I know we're all going to be watching with bated breath, as that saying goes, as they get ready to take on the world starting on July 30th. So set your DVRs, get your butts out of bed, and make sure you're watching and supporting everybody from the Canada basketball women's 3x3 team. Canada basketball's women's team as well. Great team. They're going to have to fight really hard in probably the toughest women's field ever. But Canada, really well coached. Victor, their coach, is just fantastic. He's got them ready. So we'll see. We'll be seeing that. And as well, ex-Canada basketball head coach Lisa Tomaitis is coaching the German national team as well. So lots of Canadian content there. As I do every week, I just want to just share my son Ben, who passed away a year and a half ago, just what he thought was most important in life, and that's to be kind to others. You don't know what people are going through in their lives. Tell those that you love them all the time. You can never say that enough. Take good care of yourself and take good care of others. Ryan, thanks so much. This was a great show.
We're going to do it again next week, too. So excited.
Excited. And we'll have a different schedule for the last two shows, which will end on August 17th. We're going to go to a 1-hour format after
Heavy Olympic
next weekend.
focus, right? Heavy Olympic focus.
It'll be all Olympics and Stingers. So in the meanwhile, you folks have a great week on and off the court. Get out to the Stingers game on Monday night and support them in the playoffs. Been a great time. Thanks for spending your Saturday morning with us here on The Basketball Show on the Voice of Sports, Sports 1440.